Hello, I hope you're doing well. Today, with color grading, we're aiming for a jungle-like and cinematic atmosphere, and we want to add a bit of a scary feeling to match this kind of image. Well, the first thing we can do, there are a lot of references we can check to see what the mood is like and how it's been done. We want to create a dark, scary vibe and make it a bit more cinematic with a certain tone. Green and blue. Okay, let's get started. Keep in mind that the preset should always be set somewhere between 896 and 128. So here, I begin by setting it to 128, which is the starting point, and then I gradually increase it, step by step, all the way up to 896. Next, I press Alt and P together to create the next tab in the sequence. Then I open the Curve Adjustment panel, go to the Curve Layout section and start working there, making any necessary adjustments as needed. We continue and I go to the Shadow section, press Alt and P, and in the next tab I go to HD Live and set it close to 0. Then I adjust the layout value and move on to the next tab. In the next tab, within the primary light wheels in the shadow section, I carefully bring the shadow back to around 128 to add a slightly greater bit of white haze to the shadows. I also increase the sharpness value. Now, I come here and adjust the contrast layer, and then I tweak the shadow as needed. I move the shadow away from its original position and add more complementary shades. Then, in the next tab, I adjust the saturation, and the colorist tells me, now let's start coloring from here. At this point, depending on the style we want, this process can continue, or I can shift the tones toward teal, cyan, and so on. And here, I increase their density and adjust their saturation as needed, but not too much. At this stage, my goal is to bring these tones closer to a greenish feel. We can carefully control the greenness of the work, thoroughly check the colors, and see what specific aspects we can improve. In this part, we can also control it and gently shift it a bit toward a more soothing, warmer tone. We don't have any magenta or green, so we move on to the next step and start adding effects from scratch. The first effect I want to add is for the lighting, so I go to that section. Lighting effects and elements such as diffraction, and the addition of a subtle sensitivity. Let's try them out in their different available modes. As I said, let's see. We adjust the amount just a bit here, carefully control its scale at this point, and also adjust its intensity here. We can set the value as needed depending on what is required. Then let's move on to the next step. I press Alt and P and also make sure to align its layer properly. We can also add another layer later if we want, but it doesn't have much effect because our light layer is only in this part. Let's move on to the next effect. Something that can give a sense of mystery here is a kind of radial feeling, or vignette. I prefer the radial one. It creates a sense of suspense. Let's go to the mask section. In the mask section, we work on creating it. Adjust it to the angle I want and move this part as well. I carefully apply it, and with this beautiful effect, we further enhance that wonderful feeling. Now let's move on to the next layer. I'm going to add another effect. With this next effect, we can easily create a film look. as much as we need, and in the next step I want to decide whether to use ray lateral lens refraction as well. It gives a certain feeling. Next, in the video we can adjust it a bit. We can control it and make this color more vibrant, so we need to take it over there. Here we carefully apply it, and I start to get a bit of that familiar feeling. Then, with the next effect, I gradually create a sense of depth, making the result feel richer and more layered. We really need to keep this, and we can actually have it. I move this and create a blurry effect, so we can apply it to our background. We can decide where to allow it, control how far it goes, which images it covers, and if we don't want it in certain parts, we can exclude them. Okay, the blurry effect we're using is working, and we can set its mode to screen, so it stands out more. Then, with a bug or adjustment, we can change its color. For example, I can give it a greenish feel. Or the feeling of blue is no different, and we can give you any color we like. I prefer green here. There is a certain amount of green. I like lilac. Look at these lilacs. We can control their intensity. This was enough to upset the system, and I entered without any hesitation. I'll do some contrast work for you. Still. In the input layer, I can use a color. Now, whatever color I have in mind here, its intensity was high. You don't know this. It's out of my hands. In the next step, the last filter I need to activate is the film look. And here I have the highlights, fill, and white balance. Let's see what we get here. The best result is with the same method. There's a story, amen, from green. No, it can be much more as well. We'll check the work until we finalize the video. Thank you for being with me until the end. I appreciate it, and I hope you have a great day.